Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be solving oil, water, skyscrapers, which I think is pretty self-evident in this particular thumbnail. I'll come back to that in a moment. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're continuing the phenomenal series from Blobz, Oil and Water, this time with a skyscrapers fusion. I think it's actually the last one in the series, or at least the last one that's published. Maybe Blobz would leave a comment down below if there's another one that's planned, but this is the last of the series. It'll be a shame to say goodbye to them, same like we did with Colorado, but they've been absolutely incredible. Now, I'm not going to say I've saved the best to last. I will say, though, I think I have saved the hardest to last. A lot of these puzzles, usually when I take a quick look at them, I have a bit of an inclination about where to go. But last week's Oil and Water, which was vampires, and this week's Oil and Water skyscrapers, these two really, I just didn't have a clue as I started recording. And not surprisingly, they're both 3-star difficulty rated puzzles. This has a phenomenal rating, I think 97% or something like that as of the time of recording. Just a quick word about the thumbnail. This is hopefully a never case that you can see here, where sea levels have risen, water is everywhere, it's covering the skyscrapers there all the way in the horizon. And we also have a bit of pollution to contend with oil floating above some of that water. Dreadful kind of expectation there, but reminds me quite a bit of a movie that I saw a long time ago. I'm trying to even remember the name of it, where it had essentially the North Atlantic current had broken down because of salinity, and suddenly there was an ice age that came along and water had risen everywhere. Well, ice came along everywhere, I think. That's really the inevitable part. Anyway, happier thoughts. Let's take a look at today's puzzle and the rule sets. What do we have in store for today? So, Oil, Water, Skyscrapers by Blobz. And the following set of rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. That means place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and every 3 by 3 box as outlined by the thicker dark black lines. Then we have digits in the grid represent the heights of skyscrapers, and clues outside the grid indicate the number of skyscrapers visible in the corresponding row or column. We featured skyscrapers before, so it's not an unusual variant for this channel. I'm just taking a look around to look for something that wouldn't actually start solving to explain it. For example, if I place a 9 in here and you've got a 2 just ahead of it, all that really means is that there are 2 skyscrapers that are visible. And the number represents essentially almost the height of the skyscrapers, or the number of floors. And clearly, if there is a skyscraper that is lower than the one in front of you, you're not going to be able to see it. So the idea is, if you have something that looks like follows, you can see 2 skyscrapers. You can see the 2-floor one, and then you can see a giant 9-floor one behind it. But you can see no further because all of the rest, obviously because of Sudoku rules, are all going to be smaller than 9. So that would be actually a fairly appropriate set of numbers for a 2 skyscraper. Down here, though, if you look at the 4, well, you'll definitely be able to see the 8 and the 9. All the remaining digits are smaller. One thing I wouldn't be able to do is put a 7 in here. Because if I put a 7, all the remaining digits are less than 7. Then all I can see would be the 7, then nothing in here because they're smaller than 7, then 8, then 9. And that would be an example of a broken skyscraper rule because all you can see is 3. So that's the skyscraper rule that we have to play with today. Digits in cages do not repeat. And of course, we've got the oil and water rule set around the cages. So each cage is either full of oil, as in even digits, which I usually number, well, color green. So this could be 2, 4, 6, or 8. Or it could be water, such as blue, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, which is the odd numbers. And of course, they can be a mix of both. So the cages are either full of oil, full of water, or a mix of both, as I've shown here. Now, one thing, just physics, Oil floats on top of water, so the even digits in any cage, if it is mixed, will always be above the odd digits, as is the case here. And one thing that will not happen, we're not, you've seen that scene behind, the idea of sort of shaking things to try and actually mix oil and water is just impossible. Having something where essentially oil and water are on the same level is not allowed. So whatever you have, the same row has to be the same material in every cage. So in this case, all water or all oil. But you cannot have a mix like I had here, which is one blue, one green. That's all the rules we have for today. It's not even killer cages. There are no sums. There's no maths. It's just skyscrapers today. So you can understand my fear about today's puzzle. And I guess the fear that you may have as well about the scene that you saw. If you want to play along, rescue us from that water world, solve this puzzle, link will be in the description down below, as usual, for you to play along. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. Wish me luck. So due to the absence of literally anything useful in here, there's no killer cages. Some of the cages, you can see that it's 5 cells. You know that they're not all even. So I can do a little bit of coloring of parity. But even the 5-cell caves, they're not that many. It's literally 3 of them. I'll take whatever I can get, but it's clearly all about skyscrapers, which is really where I wanted to start. Now, when it comes to skyscrapers, a useful thing to do is to think about 9s. Because in essence, the second I place a 9 anywhere in the grid, the skyscraper crew cannot see anything beyond it. So if you think about the perspective of that 5 here, it will see up to the 9, but we know all the remaining digits are smaller, because, the normal Sudoku rules, they are digits 1 to 9, so they're smaller than 9, and therefore the maximum here would be essentially 2, not 5. So if you think about where 9s can actually go, in the locations that we are being given, and really I'm almost interested exclusively in this region to start. And I'm actually sort of interested in the intersection because that's where all the clues are. So look at sort of where the intersection is. I don't know if I'm really going to sort of draw that. Yeah, I may as well. Just for the sake of clarity. So essentially we've got the columns looking at all the red cells. We've got the rows for the skyscraper crews looking at all the blue cells. And you can see in the middle here, we've got the intersection. And we have a lot of information. I say a lot of information. Sorry, misspoke there. We have some information about where the 9s are in that intersection. So that's kind of my plan of attack. I don't know if this is the intended route, but that is my plan of attack. Now, if you think about what those clues are saying, the 4, clearly the 9 cannot be anywhere before the 4th cell away from it. So this is essentially the extent of 9. I'm going to use reds. Because there's a 9 already in here, these 2 cannot be 9. So there's definitely a 9 in one of these 3 cells. Therefore, there's definitely a 9 classic Sudoku in one of these 3 cells. And we're just going to repeat this a few times, just to see where it all lines up. Again, 9 can't be before the 5th cell, the 9 cannot be before the 3rd cell. And just see how far we get. That's the wrong one, that's 4. So it can only be in here, and then 3 to 5, 4 to 3, that's all of these. Then we just need to see if the columns have broken any of them. And in a way it has. You can see that 4, that can't be a 9. So that removes 1. These 3 are fine, this 3 is fine. If we look at the other side, yeah, the 5, these can't be 9s, and 9 at an earliest could be only in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2's fine, 2's fine. And the red cells we need, between the red cells, we need 5 9s. Because essentially we've got 5 rows and 5 columns in this cube. Which I'm pretty sure means that is not a 9. Essentially, where does the 9 go in column 3? If it's not in this red cell, I don't have enough 9s in this grid. Does that make sense? Because that's outside of that red grid. And then I'm pretty sure I've broken it. So that's not a 9. That is a 9. It feels like a very quick deduction. I'm just going to think this through before I make that assertion. Let me think through what I'm saying here. For a second, just humor me. I'm going to prove my statement with a counterexample. If this is a 9, that's not a 9. That means the 9 in row 6 is one of these. The 9 in row 5, therefore, can only be in here. And now I've broken row 4. So that is correct. That couldn't be a 9 in here. The 9 has to be as part of the red cells. It cannot be where the row 4 is. Again, that would be only 3. That would only be 3. That would only be 3. That would only be 3. That's the only place where it's allowed. And that helpful. We actually have a digit in under 5 minutes. I'll take it. I'll lose the reds though. I don't think we need it. 9 is amongst this row, so it's not here, it's not there. It's one of these 3 cells. Just kind of creates a weird X-wing, but we'll call it that. You can see for this row, we've got it covered. And between these rows, no, we still have this column that's shared. I was tempted for a second to say that they share the same columns, but they don't. We're not restricted to these columns. I can have a 9 in here. If I do have a 9 in here, what does that do? One thing I will do as we go along is just label what is water and what isn't. Because these include a 9, so these have to be all odd. It's all at the same level. And water is the heavier element here, so this also is water. That's 3 waters. It does help me with the rest of box 1. I can't have these to be odd because it would require all of it to be odd. That would be 4 odds plus 3 odds. That's 7 odds. That doesn't work. So these at a minimum are even. At an absolute minimum. Where else do we go from here? I was thinking about these 5s. The 5 cell cages can't be all odd. Otherwise we'd have 5 evens, 5 unique even digits, which is impossible because we only have 4 of them in the Sudoku grid, 2, 4, 6, and 8. So essentially the bottom section of every one of these 5 cell cages always has to be odd. So all of these are odd. Which is actually quite helpful in box 5. Have I got any more 5 cell cages? No, this is it. It was just literally the 3. So that's why I didn't really start with that. This shape here, that plus sign, I can't make this row odd. If I do, then obviously the lower section would have to be water as well. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cells, 5 and 6. That breaks the puzzle. So this has to be even. Therefore, this is not a 9. Only place for a 9 now in row 4 is in here. And that's helpful because that turns all of these into water as well. And that's not a 9. So 9 now is actually quite restricted in this initial intersection. It's essentially just these are the cells that are remaining. And I'm pretty sure any of them works. The fact that this is even means that this is also oil. That's 4 oils. That's got to be odd. So far we've got 1, 2, 3. That has to be odd as well, just because it sees all 4 evens. So it sees the 3 that is in its box. It also sees this cell. We know that they have to be unique. It's part of the rule sets. Digits and cages do not repeat. That is odd. These now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, 5 odds in row 6. All of these are even. These can't be even. I've already got 3. If I make that even, that will be 5 even digits in row 4, and we only have 4 of them. So all of that is odd as well. Slow but steady progress. I'm happy with that. Doesn't feel like enough though. I really want to figure out where some of these 9s are. I don't think I'm going to see it right now. So here's something. We've got in column 7, 3 odds. This can't all be odd. Otherwise, that would be 6 odd in total. So these 2 cells have to be even, because this cell has to be even. Now, nothing stops me from having 2 odds now. Just these 2 had to be even. These 2 being even means that this cage is odd. It's 3 cells plus 2 would make 5 odd. Sorry, 5 even. That doesn't work. Is that 5? That's 5 in odds in column 3. All of these are now even. That's very helpful because all of this is even. This cannot be a 9 anymore in an even cell. That's the 9. All of this is now odd. Which puts a 9 down here. Just classic Sudoku. Nowhere else, and obviously these as well, this. So nowhere else for it to go except this cell, and that is odd. In fact, the rest of this whole row is odd, because we've already placed 4 evens. Got 3 odds. Yeah, we've got it. That can't be odd, because if that's odd, all of this is odd, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 odds. That doesn't work. That is even. That gives me my 9. These are not 9s. Only place for a 9 now in column 5 is in here. That's, and that's, there we go. Right. 9s placed. Well, not all of them, a lot of them. These now, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, these can't be both odd. Otherwise, we'd end up with 6 odds in box 8. These are even. This is odd. We need a 4th even. It can't be these 2 cells, and they have to be the same. They're on the same level. That's even. These 2 are odd. That's 5 odd. That's my 4th even in box 9. I need an even and an odd, one of each in here. Don't know which one it is just yet. So close to 5 odds, but not quite. No cigar. We have again an odd and an even. I don't know which one it is. Sorry, these 2 cells I mean. Yeah, it's starting to get a bit trickier again. Right, 4 odds means they both can't be odd. I have to have an even between these 2 cells. It's got to, of course, be at least the top layer. It's the entire top layer, which gives me 4 evens. Therefore, the rest of this is all odd. Which also means, yes, I've got 5 odds in box 1. That's got to be even. I've got 4 evens in column 2. That's got to be odd. I've got 5 odds in box 4. This has to be even. 4 evens in row 4. This has to be odd. 5 odds in box 6. These 2 have to be even. Does it help me with my even odd problem still? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 odds. These 2 are even. That makes this odd. That's only 4 odds, actually. So these 2 can still be even, or they could still be odd. I don't actually know. 4 evens in here means this is odd. I still need a 3rd even and an odd somewhere in here. And right now, either works. 3 evens, 3 evens. So essentially, I'll sort of show you with different colors. We've got something that looks like this. And I don't know which is which. All I know is essentially we've got a pair which would either complete the odds, and therefore the other one would be the opposite. And then beneath it, just because we have a pair in here, and it's the same thing in the columns, whether it's odd or even, this will be the fourth even or the fifth odd. And yeah, the same is true. So all we know is that it's sort of this pattern. We just don't know whether purple is odd or even, and we just know that an orange is going to be the opposite. Now that most of it is actually addressed, something that we probably should start doing is actually, some Sudoku. We haven't done any. We haven't really done any, so we should do some of that. That's not a 9, that's a 9. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to remove the 9, not the color. I think that's 9 9s, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So all the 9s are done. So I need a new trick now to actually make some progress. Now, my temptation, look at this 4 as an example. Yeah, this is tricky. Is to think about what some of the possibilities are that do not break the skyscraper rule. So let's think about the 4. It needs to see all of these cells because this is a 9. So essentially, these are now almost like on a thermometer with a bulb at this end, and the numbers have to ascend. Not true for this 4, but let's go with what we have. What's going on in here? So if this is 1, 2, 3, that works. This cannot be an 8. This can tap out at 6 because you need a bigger number between it and the 9. This can go up to 7, and this, not 3. If I go 5, yeah, I can do 5, 6, 7, and then 9. So that's the maximum. This is a valid set of pencil marks. There are no remaining options. Sort of half tempted to use letters for a second because I know some of these are going to be, that's not what I meant to say. These two, for example, are the same. These two are the same. So there's a few of things like that where I am very tempted to, go on, I'll just do it. These are A's. These two are the same and they're different because, these two cells can see each other. So this is, let's call it C. Therefore, where does A go in row 4? It can only be in here. Where does C go in row 5? It can only be there. We're left with E and H. Is that H correct? No, G. E, G as well in here. E, G in there as well. That means this is AC, and then one of these two is AC. It's not hugely helpful. The 1 is quite helpful to sort of help. I don't know if I really want to keep going down that route. Not too sure about this. Is that forced? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. That's more useful than what I was doing. This has to be fairly low. 3, 5. I'm not even sure I can go as far as 5. Yes, I can, because I can go 6 and 8. Obviously, if I go 1, 3, I can go 4 and 6 as well. Whatever this cell is, it's down here because these have to be unique. So that's 4, 6. There's a 2 in here. Just to complete this cage, it needs to see all the evens. There's a 2 down here. Again, just row 5. There is no 2s in there or there, but that's not exactly helpful. So interestingly, this is from 357. think the 4 is actually, this 4 is more useful than I initially thought. This has to be 1. Just Sudoku, that's the remaining one, that's 1. And obviously it's hidden. So it sort of depends whether it's all ascending. If it gets up to 7, that obviously can't be an, I mean, if it's ascending and it ends up at 7, let's actually think about this. If this cannot be 7, it's too big. Can it be 5? I could do 5, 7, 8, 9. Yes, it can. I am going to have to hit the pause button. Apologies for this. Just a quick walk of our cutie dogs, and I'll be right back. All right, please excuse the pause, and I'm back. Although it's 45 minutes later, so fingers crossed it won't be painful for you to see how I needed to resume my thought process. So yeah, this 3, not very useful. A 2 in here, also not hugely useful. 1 is in one of 2 places in here. It's not very restrictive, you see. These are from 3, 5, and 7. And they really could be any of them. I think 3 feels a bit too low, given how far away the 9 is. But I could do something like 3, 8, 9, and we're done. Equally, 7 is fine. I could do 7, 8, and 9, and again, we're done. Getting very tricky. So the only thing that I know about this cell is it's higher than this one. And therefore this is restricted to 2, 4, or 6. I really want to figure out what's purple and what's orange. I don't know how to go about doing that. So far I've not earmarked the 8 anywhere. That's my answer. To make this 2 work, given none of these are 8, 8 is somewhere in these 4 cells. And if it's anywhere except this exact cell, the one I have highlighted, I will break the 2, because essentially it'll be a number that's smaller than 8, followed by an 8 somewhere in these cells, followed by a 9, which would make 3. So purple has to be even, orange has to be odd, and this specifically has to be 8. And this is 2, 4, 6. This is 2, 4, 6. One of these again has to be 8. One of these 2 cells has to be 8. It's not particularly interesting. That can't be a 7 anymore, because the 8 is up here. I feel like I'm bouncing around, if I'm honest. This can't be a 2, it has to be 4 or 6. It's got to be higher than this cell, and 8 is not an option because it's up here. So this is 4, 6. If there is an 8 in here, yeah, not enough info. Is there any way I can remove the 7? Right, here's maybe a better question. C, we know, is smaller than A. So C, whatever C is, does not include a 7. I'm actually tempted to show what it can be. It's 1, 3, or 5. This has to be higher. This is 3, 5, or 7. And the question is, where can I use that logic again to try and figure out what some of these cells are? 3 in here. What is this cell? It is not E or G. It is A or C, whatever they are, but it does include a whole bunch of options. And this is A or C. A is no longer 1. Can EG be 1? I don't see a problem with that. We know that A is not a 1. We've done that deduction already. So maybe something that I could do, and I'm not a huge fan of it, if I'm honest, as I'm about to do it, is essentially start to earmark which of the skyscraper clues have I essentially used fully. So for example, this 2 skyscraper is done. There's really no value left in even thinking about it. And just as a way of at least organizing how I'm going around looking at the grid, feels useful. Let's think about this a bit more. So this 2 has to be larger than whatever this cell is. So it is not C, excuse me, this is 3, 5, or 7, and whatever the value is, it is larger than this even digit. So this is not 8. Yeah, it can't be anyway, because the 8 would block all of the rest and it wouldn't get to 3. But it is 2, 4, or 6. If that's a 2, this would be higher. I mean, that's possible, providing 7 is on this side. Yeah, it's not very useful. Let's think about, we said C is lower than A, but we don't know much about E and G here. We need 5 cells, 3 cells here, it really doesn't matter, we just know it's 2, 4, 6, 4, 6, 8. Again, it has to be increasing as it goes towards the 9. It's not enough info. The 2 is in here, this is another 4, 6, or 8. 2 is in one of these 2 cells. It's not a 2. Can I figure out what this cell is? We know it's not a 2 because whatever this cell is, it's in here. So 2 is in one of these 2 cells. Three, I've got all I can out of it. There's an 8 in here because it's not up there. There's an 8 in here. These cells basically don't matter. So essentially, if there's an 8, it's visible with the 9. This really feels like it can't be a 1, of course, unless this is an 8. So that's possible still. But it really feels more like this will be a 7. But again, I can't really prove it. Eight in box 5 is in one of 2 cells. Therefore, that's not an 8. And it wasn't an 8 because, again, it would have broken the 5. Can it actually even be a 6? 6, 7, 8, 9 is only 4. That's a 4. That was there for the taking for a while. None of these are 4. That's a 4. That's a 4. This is now not 2 or 4. It is 6 or 8. Therefore, this is 6 or 8. This is not a 4. This is 2 or 6. This has to be a 4. Again, no 4s. That's a 4. To be a 3, this can't be a 5 anymore. This has to be a 3. C is not a 3. Doesn't stop A from being a 3, however, because I can do 1, 3. This is 5, 7. One of these is a 3. 3, 5, 7. Still don't know what this is. This is 2, 6, 8, but it's not enough info. Right, that can't be an 8, because that'd be 1, 2, 3. No, it can't be. If that's an 8, that couldn't be a 6. It would have to be a 2 anyway, which is lower than this. So it would be 5, 7 plus 8 plus 9. That still works. Right, if it isn't an 8, that's 2, 6. Again, it's going to be fine. 4, this is a 2, 4 pair. This is another 6, 8, just to complete essentially kind of the row. Be really useful to get some of these bigger digits done, but it's proving quite tricky. So let's think about this 4. Whatever this cell is, it's higher than this. It's higher than here. So this is actually quite restricted. It can't be an 8 in front of a 4. Sleuth, that was there a while. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 6. Where can 8 go before I get to the 9? It can only be in here. That's an 8. That's a 6. That's a 2. That's now a 2. That's not a 2. That's not a 4. That's not a 4. One of these two cells is a 7. It almost doesn't matter which one it is, as long as... No, really doesn't matter. Which means that's not a 7. Only place now, that's a 3, 5 pair, which gives me a 1 in here. That is a definite 7. That's not a 7. C is not 7. I think that's huge. No, we already knew that. It's not a 3. We already knew that as well. And A can be a 7 from my option, so not necessarily a step forward. We're getting there though. This is 2, 8. The order doesn't really matter here because this is larger than 2 but smaller than 8. So the only thing that does matter is this has to be... No, it doesn't even have to be anything, because once the 8 is down, this being 3, 5 or 7 has no implication on the total, because essentially I've gone 5, 8 or 7, 8, then on to 9. We're making progress. It's just very slow, and I can only apologize for that to you guys, because you're probably seeing things on the screen. These are both 1, 5. We always knew that about C anyway. Just may as well write these in. The fact that these are 1, 5 means that's not a 5. This is 3, 7. This is 3, 7. A is no longer a 5. It is 3 or 7. Again, no longer a 5. I don't really think the letters are helping me. This is 3, 5, 7. And then this is 1, 5, 7. Not hugely useful. Right, we do need to try and think about what's going on again here. So let's think about these cells for a moment. They are, I mean, it could be anything, but they ascend before they descend. They can't be entirely ascending, and they cannot be entirely descending. And this is not an 8. This is 2, 4, or 6. How do I use that? This can be an 8. I don't see a problem with that. In fact, it can't be an 8. 8 is all the way. It has to be here in box 6. So this is also 2, 4, or 6. One of these is an 8 for sure, though. That's not a 4. So this is 2, 6, or 8. One of these three is a 4. It's not huge revelations there. If this is an 8, this would have to be 6 or 4. This would have to be 2 or 4. It's just... In fact, it would be, if this is an 8, that would be 2. That would be 6. That would be 4. It's actually very prescriptive if I get that far. If that's not an 8, that would be the 8. And this would have to be 2 or 4. This would have to be 6. This would have to be 2, 4. Right, I'm back to the idea of, hang on, here's something. This 3 here, they're ascending, and this cell has to be lower than this cell. Otherwise it will get to 4. Makes this, oh hang on, it is forced. That is a 6. That is an 8. That can't be a 7. That is the 7. So that's 1, 2. I need a 3 before I get to 4. That's an 8. That's a 2. That's not an 8. This can't be a 6 anymore. If this is a 6, I could do 4, 2, 6. So it is still possible. That is forced. That's an 8. This 4 now has to be 6. Well, we've already established 6, 7, 8, 9. This has to be larger. It is, I mean, it's okay. So it's time to do this. Otherwise, it feels like I'm wasting your time. So things that are done, I am going to start marking with purple. Just in the interest of your valuable time. This looks largely done. This is done. This 5 is, no, this has to be 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This has to be 3. That's a 5. Both of these are now done, and let's just use what it's given us. That 1, 3 gives me a 7 in here, which gives me a 5 in here. That gives me a 3 for the A. That's 3. That has to be 1 now. That has to be 1. That has to be 5. Right, progress 3. These are 5, 7, and that 7 gives us an order. That's 7, that's 5. That's got to be 7, that's 5. That's, well, we know these are 1, 3 from A and C. That's therefore the 1. That's the 3, because it couldn't be the 3. That is now the 7. And that's a 3, 5 pair, which gives me another 7 in here. Right, we're making real progress now. I'm kind of regretting not having done this earlier. The 8 has to be up here. Whatever this cell is, has to be smaller than this, and we need to have an 8. Otherwise, it will break the 2. So that is the 8, and that's the 6. These are not 6s. That's a 4, that's a 2. That is 2, 4, 9. That's looking good. So time to get my purple color out. 7 and 9. I need something reasonably high. So my options here are 4, 6, which gives me a 2 here, which gives me an 8. That's 1, 2, 3. That's done. So that's all of these done. That's that done. Need to think about that 3 for a second and that 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3 visible. That can't be an 8, that would break the 5. That's fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These have to be descending from the 5. So my options are, pretty sure it can only be 4 and 2. If I use 6, that would cover the 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is fixed. That's 2. That's 4. That's 6. That's 4 again. This is not 4. This is 2 or 6. I remember something about the 3. We'll take a look at that in a moment. That 5 is done. That 3 needs to be ascending. This is not 2 or 4. It is a 6 and an 8. That gives me a 2 in here. That's that 4 hopefully done. Yes, it is. That's looking good. That's looking good. 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. That is 5. That's looking good too. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's got to be entirely ascending. I don't know why I missed that from earlier. That is still 3 or 5 though, but doesn't matter. That's done. Right, 1, 2, 3. This is lower. This is part of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is good. This is 2 or 6. It's not a 2. It is in fact a 6 and a 2. That's 1, 2, 3. That 3 is also fine. I haven't broken anything so far. That 3 gives me a 5, gives me a 3. We're at 40 minutes. 1, 2, 3, looking good. I think we're nearly there. 1, 2, 3, and this is indeed lower. So that is done. I think that is all the skyscrapers done. So really, the only thing that's left now is Sudoku. Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, reasonably confident with that statement. So that's a 6, that's a 4, that's a 2, that's a 4, that's a 6. So all the evens done. 1, 5, and 9. We need 3 and 7 in here. That's a 7, that's a 3, that's a 5, that's a 7, that's a 5, that's a 3. We haven't actually checked the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good. So another purple, that's done. And then if I've not made any mistakes, 1 and 5 for the solution. Have a heart, Mr. Blobz. It is, as expected, your hardest in the series. I feel like I really should have done the purple pencil marks way earlier, because I felt like I was just basically looking at the grid, revisiting the same clues multiple times, and just, like I said, not making the best use of your time or my time. But as soon as I started to actually keep track of which clues we've already used, it just all fell together very quickly. What another absolutely phenomenal puzzle in the series, Blobz, and an exceptional finale. Hopefully it won't be the finale and there will be more of these to come. If you haven't played all the Oil and Water series, I do encourage you to. They are absolutely incredible. So please check them out. YouTube's going to give you a playlist right after this. Bye-bye for now.